Hey guys, it's the Loud Guys. Today we are going to watch why the US didn't nuke Tokyo. And I saw this video and then this question came into my mind also. Like, okay, we always read about that, okay, US nuked Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And we all know that Hiroshima and Nagasaki are not the two biggest cities of Japan. So, like, why did US did that? And US could have easily nuked, like, Tokyo and other big cities of Japan. And they could have hurt them even more, even their economy and everything. But why US didn't do that? So, was it kind of a scare tactic from US that okay, that we are going to nuke you, we are going to hurt you very bad, but not at your worst point, not at the point that will hurt you the most, because just to make sure that we do not want to cause a lot of problems to you, but just because we just want to like make sure that Hiroshima and Nagasaki is there, and just to give you a point that stop all these bullshit that you are doing. Was that the case? If that was the case, then I think so we all need to like commend USA even more, because like they have been thinking about even before nuking someone, they were thinking like okay, we should not hurt them even that much. Or was it a whole another case? We will see that in this video.
When I was in the school, I also read about this, and we are so much familiar about the Hiroshima and Nagasaki thing. But the same question I am having, that why didn't the America attack on the largest cities of the Tokyo? The answer could be like, first the answer could be that they just want to make the Tokyo afraid that or maybe they're gonna just show their strength, that how powerful we are. If you gonna mess with us a lot, then we can also do a lot of things. Maybe it could be something like that. So seriously, I'm so much excited to watch this video, and so much excited to know the answer about my question. So yeah, let's watch the video.
So yeah, let's see that why didn't the US nuke Tokyo. So let's start the video.
So, it's May 1945. Germany has just surrendered. In Europe, the war is over. Everyone is happy. But it's also a bummer for some people in America that have been working on a top secret project. This is a project to build a nuclear weapon that can end the war. They have done some tests and they kind of want to see if this would actually work in real life. But no worries, they will see it in action very soon. Because on the other side of the world, there is no peace. America is fighting Japan in a slow and costly war. They have this tactic where they're hopping from island to island over two fronts. And the first big success is at Guadalcanal. You know, these iconic battles, Midway, Wake Island and Iwo Jima. It's basically all the battles I played in Battlefield 1942 back in the day. In the end, the Americans land on Japanese soil. The battle for Okinawa will be the last mission before they plan on landing on Japan. And it's a heavy fight. I mean, most of the time when people fight a battle and defeat is obvious, they surrender, right? But not here.
Yeah, Japanese do not surrender.
Japanese defenders die before they let themselves be captured.
Yeah.
Because the Japanese high command is thinking,
if we bleed out the Americans, they'll be willing to settle or something. They have this idea that like democracies are wimpy, and if we make the costs very high, they will vote out the leaders or whatever, and they will go for anything.
And it's actually
so
right.
Almost 99% of the Japanese defenders perish. This is the bloodiest battle in the whole Pacific Theater.
Oh.
And it kind of works. Okinawa really freaks the Americans out. If this is the defense they're up against, how many Allied soldiers are going to die invading mainland Japan?
Yeah.
They make some estimates, and really it varies wildly. On one hand, people say it's tens of thousands of dead, and then maybe it could be 250,000 dead and wounded.
250,000.
So now this shiny new weapon suddenly becomes an interesting option. And you get it, they had just spent $2 billion in developing it. So they really want to just see it in action. And if the bomb does work, maybe there will be no invasion, no American deaths. That would be perfect.
And they were right.
But if you decide on using it, how do you show the power of this weapon? These bombs have never been used before. Are you gonna drop it on a remote island? Are you gonna drop it on a military base? In the end, they decide to drop it on a city. The question then, of course, becomes, which city?
Yeah.
Well, they decide to form this little committee. These guys should get together and just literally start brainstorming. What criteria do we need to decide this? Well, we have their notes, so we actually know what they were talking about. They say it should have a large urban area, be somewhere between Tokyo and Nagasaki, and have a high strategic value. And when you apply these criteria, you get a list of 17 areas. On the list you see big places like the capital Tokyo that has an arrow next to it. But also Kyoto,
Hiroshima.
which maybe for us now is really insane to think about nuking it. We think of Kyoto as this cultural center of Japan.
Kyoto.
It has all these historic shrines.
Yeah.
But then they were like, who cares about shrines? We're trying to win a war here. I mean, the reason that Kyoto is famous for all these shrines nowadays is that all other of them were bombed.
Oh.
But we'll get to that. If you look at the list, you see Hiroshima and all the way down Nagasaki. I don't know if you have the same feeling, but this is just any other group project. If you've ever been in that kind of corporation, you know there's nothing set in stone here. You're just spitballing about what criteria are important. Some get added, some get voted out. But then again, most of the group project I was in didn't have life or death impact for thousands of people.
Yeah.
After a few brainstorming sessions, the committee brings a list of 17 targets down to 4. They settle on Hiroshima, Kokura, Niigata, and Nagasaki. From these 4, 2 cities will be targeted in the end. So why did they knock Tokyo off the list?
Yeah.
Well, the reason that Tokyo is not on the list is actually quite dark.
Oh.
And to show you why, I have to talk about the city in Germany.
Germany?
Okay, so what is the link between the Germany and the Tokyo?
Dresden is an old city in the east of Germany. It's an important economic and cultural center. And city center has all these buildings with a Baroque design. If you go there and you take out your Lonely Planet, you can find highlights such as the Frauenkirche, the Semperoper and the Hochkirche. And it's also completely fake.
Fake?
They rebuilt the city from the rubble. All these buildings are not old at all.
Oh.
You see, the Allies targeted Dresden together with Hamburg in a terrifying way. They were firebombed. This is basically dropping burn bombs and napalm to create firestorms in the city.
The main component of the M69
God.
bomb. When ignited, the gel filling becomes a clinging fiery mass spreading more than a yard in diameter.
Firebomb.
These fires can go on for days, creating pure hell on earth. This bombardment at the end of the war destroyed the entire city and killed tens of thousands of people.
Oh my God.
And Dresden, it wasn't even an important military target. Dresden was one of the many cities in Germany bombed by the Allies. And if you look at this map of Germany, you can see the impact the bombing has. This map shows with black percentages how much of the cities are destroyed.
Oh.
At the end of the war, this is what's left of Germany. You have cities like Mainz, Frankfurt and Köln, they're almost completely leveled. Now you're thinking, of course they were bombing Germany, they needed to stop the war. So they're bombing factories that produce guns, aircraft and tanks. Right? Well, at the start of the war, the British were shit at aiming. Less than a quarter of the bombs fell within an 8-kilometer radius of the intended targets. Wait, think about that for a second. 25% landed within 8 kilometers of the intended target. You can understand that's not really effective. At the same time, they're losing insane amounts of men and planes. At one point, a pilot has a lower survival rate than a soldier in the trenches of the First World War. And they were total meat grinders. So with this in mind, the British Bomber Command thinks, well, we kind of have to change tactics. Instead of searching for specific targets by day, now we're just gonna go for bombing general areas at night.
Oh,
Won't
no.
that really impact civilians? How do we feel about that? Well, people are kind of making up their minds about what it means to bomb civilians. Remember, airplanes are really, really new. So people are figuring out how to use them, when to use them, how it is okay to use them. It's only a few years before the Second World War that it's the first time that a city is attacked by bombers. That was Guernica in Spain. You know, from that famous Picasso painting?
Oh, wow.
So with this new thing, people are still just developing theories about the use of airplanes. And there's one guy that said the following.
Oh my gosh, if you could attack a city and they couldn't do anything to defend themselves, then that would just collapse the population, they would give up and the bomber would win.
And British commanders that are bombing Germany, they kind of go along with this. One guy, Arthur Harris, a British commander, he sees politicians just kind of tiptoeing around the subject. And he just wants to be clear. So he says that the aim of the bombing is about destruction of cities, about killing of workers, about destruction of lives, creating an unprecedented refugee problem. Well, his nickname was Bomber Harris, so fair enough, I guess.
But
so
that
civilian
is
deaths
bad.
this time
That
are not
is
an
very bad.
unfortunate byproduct of bombing. It's not collateral damage. It is policy.
Yeah.
And this really hits home when you see how firebombs are designed.
These guys are
They were
similar
not
to
developed
Hitler.
to target factories. No, they were tested on mock German and Japanese houses. They're thinking about things like how furniture will impact the bombing. They're even discussing moisture levels of the wood of Japanese houses.
They practiced
So,
it.
did it achieve the goal of the bombardment? The surrender of the citizens? We'll get to that. Again, yes, Germany did awful things in the war. They targeted civilians in London, Spain, in Poland. They indiscriminately slaughtered thousands and thousands of non-combatants, including women and children. And then, of course, if you talk about Second World War, you have the Holocaust hanging over all this. And I'm not saying that they didn't do these things. But I do think that when we talk about the Second World War, it always seems like the Allies are just the good guys,
Yeah.
and Germany and Japan are just pure evil.
Yes.
But life and history just isn't that black and white. The question becomes, what are the limits to achieve your goals in this war? Is killing 100,000 civilians too much? 500,000? A million? You tell me. So you might be wondering what all this German thing has to do with Tokyo. Well, firebombing has to do with it. Because the US Air Force also believed that dropping enough bombs would make Japan surrender. So they start with firebombing Japan.
2,200 horsepower in each of 4 engines.
Oh, the same fire bombs that were thrown in Germany. So that would have destroyed Japan. Burned their houses. Because I think the many
And it was
Japanese
an even
houses
better
are made
target
of
for
wood.
firebombing than Germany. Already in the 20s, you have a pilot saying Japan is the wet dream of the bomber. Because the houses there are basically all made of wood and paper.
Yeah.
And so when you throw bomblets full of napalm, each carefully designed to destroy a single house, dropped by the thousands and thousands, well, you know what's gonna happen.
My God.
Americans have been bombing Japanese cities a lot since 1944. The problem they faced is that the war industry wasn't really centralized. They didn't have these big industrial cities like in Germany that they could target. The war industry was closer to homes in smaller places. And so hundreds upon hundreds of B-29s were used to bomb cities all over Japan. And then in one raid in March 45, B-29s swarmed over Tokyo, raining fire from hundreds and hundreds of bombers.
My God. So they had already destroyed Tokyo.
100,000 people died in this attack. And this is actually the biggest number of casualties for an air raid ever.
Oh my
To put this number in perspective, this is almost twice the number of American losses in the Vietnam War. It's bigger than the initial death toll of the individual atomic bombs. And by the summer of 1945, Tokyo practically didn't exist anymore.
What?
And remember that targeting committee, the guys that were brainstorming about what cities to bomb? Well, they know about this. Tokyo goes off the list because it's now practically all bombed and burned out. It's practically rubble, with only the palace grounds left standing. There goes Tokyo.
Oh,
But this group has an even bigger problem than that. Because they're talking about how the Air Force is systematically bombing out cities, with the prime purpose in mind of not leaving one stone lying on the other. And this is a problem for the committee because they kind of need a city that's sort of intact to show Japan and the world how strong these bombs are. There's this conflict of interest. The Air Force doesn't care about that. They would not likely reserve targets just for the Manhattan Project. And so a city like Yokohama, that was on the list first, gets taken away because it gets firebombed at the end of May. So now they're running out of targets. This leads to this really weird moment that the targeting committee has to beg the Air Force to stop bombing cities because there will be none left.
What?
And it even goes all the way to the top. The US War Secretary Henry Stimson, he tells the president he's worried about these bombardments. For two reasons. First, he is afraid that the Allies will be seen as bad as the Germans. But then again, he's also afraid that Japan has been bombed so much that a new weapon would not have a fair background to show its strength. The reaction of the president? He laughs. It's a funny joke. He probably didn't notice the contradiction between these two statements. And if you look at this map of Japan, you can understand Stimson's worry. You get a scale of the destruction. The USA firebombed a total of 69 cities. So you have major cities like Osaka, Nagoya and Tokyo that are heavily destroyed. And then you have some smaller cities like Fukuyama, Tokushima and Toyama that are basically wiped off the map. Apart from estimates that this killed about 500,000 people,
99%.
their survivors are also not really easy off. At the end of the war, a total of 15 million people didn't have a home.
Oh.
50 million people.
So there it is. The reason why Tokyo didn't get nuked was because it was already firebombed off the face of the earth. And some people involved in this, they had some second thoughts about this.
LeMay said if we'd lost the war, we'd all have been prosecuted as war criminals. And I think he's right. We're behaving as war criminals. But what makes it immoral if you lose and not immoral if you win?
This video was shocking to the core. And the thing is, like, every time we talk about World War II, there is only one thing that, okay, the worst guy was Hitler. But I think so there are many, many worst guy in those wars, because, like, even the guy that he was talking about, that, okay, for him, bombing was like, okay, we have to, like, throw them out, we have to kill all the people, we have to target civilians, and this and that, and he was just in for killing people. And somewhere down the line, the way they were doing it was very, very bad. And even I thought, like, at first in the intro part, I said that, okay, US would have felt like good about it, and US would have felt okay, like okay, we should not destroy Tokyo, their main capital city. But no, why they were not doing it? Because they had already firebombed it, and that's why they needed a new place to show the strength of their bomb. So even that line was staggering, where they said, please ask the Air Force to stop firebombing Japan. Why? Because we need cities to show our bombs to. So, like, what is it? It is just a bomb practice place where you are practicing your bombs one by one. What was that? So that is how Hiroshima and Nagasaki was chosen, because those two cities were like untouched cities, and they were like thrown in with the nuclear bomb. So this was a very hurtful kind of a video. But yes, I can say that like Japan was also not something you can say that okay, they were not doing anything, and they were the good ones. There were no good ones in the war, because everybody had some or the other thing, because we have seen Japan doing atrocities against the Chinese people and all these guys. So we have also seen that, and now we have seen like okay, they are also suffering some of that. So it is just when there is a war, everybody is on the wrong side. This is something you can say in this video, and this video was really shocking to see.
Seriously, this video was so painful, and I literally got shocked when these guys said they just bombed on Tokyo because to practice their bombs, or because to practice their aeroplane. They said that aeroplane was introduced newly on that time, and they just want to try it, and they just want to try the bombs and all, and they choose the Tokyo for it. And literally this guy was this guy also got emotional when he said that the Tokyo got literally vanished from the map. Some small cities got vanished from the map. So that thing was so cruel, and the thing which Germany started doing was literally so cruel. You cannot you cannot attack other countries just for your own sake of benefit. If we are Indians, we cannot attack on the Pakistan or the like small countries like Nepal or the Sri Lanka just to check or just to practice our the strength of our weapons or the bombs. You cannot do such kinds of activities in the 2000, but this thing was allowed on that time. So, and when this guy said that 50 million people was homeless on that time, I got goosebumps that how they faced a lot of things, and they even didn't have any home, they didn't have roof on their head. So that thing was so emotional and painful for each one of us. So yeah, I really this video was very informative for both of us. As I told you in the starting that I know I am having little bit knowledge about it, but after watching this video I got to know a lot of things about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which was so important. So yeah.
Yes, this video tells us like how important YouTube is, because you do not read these things in textbooks. This is something that you can only go through via YouTube, and you understand these things. So what do you guys think about it? Do let us know in the comment section below. So do like, share, and
Subscribe.
bye.